I was looking at some of the statistics for this show, and it turns out 47% of the listeners are not subscribed. They are not following the podcast. So if you have listened this far and you have not pushed the follow or subscribe or whatever it is on the app you're using, please do that. It would be amazing.
Hey there, and welcome to the Digital Nomad Family Podcast. This is the place where families who have or want to have a nomadic lifestyle come together to talk about the highs and lows that this life brings. We celebrate the joys and support each other in the hard. So, if you are a digital nomad family or will be in the future, this is the place for you. We're glad you're here.
Hey guys, Marissa here. I hope you all are doing well and having just a really good beginning of May. So far, so good here with us dinglers. We have a birthday in May, so that's fun. And Eric and I's anniversary is in May. So May's a fun month for us. So I hope for you, your May is off to a fun start. That's when this episode is going live. So if you're listening to it later and it's not May, that's fine. But for those of us who are listening and talking now, it's May. So let's enjoy it. Let's have a good May. I wanted to answer a question in this episode about what my family does for souvenirs, because this is something that we get asked a lot about, and it makes sense when you understand that my family travels full time and we live out of carry-on size luggage. So when you hear that with 6 people, especially 4 of them being kids, I mean, I don't have kids anymore. I have adolescents now. But when you hear that, it is kind of surprising. And you think, well, don't the kids want things? What do you do for souvenirs? How do you make that work? And in the past, I've talked about things that we travel with. So if you're curious about that, you can go back and listen to all of the episodes about that. So I'm not going to talk today about what we travel with. I'm just going to talk about souvenirs because it is a very valid question. And just because we are traveling so fast doesn't mean we want to, I don't know how to say it. We want to make sure that we are remembering each place we go to, no matter how fast it is. So, for example, we were in Peru for just over 5 months. It was about 5.5 months total by the time we left there. And that's a long time. And we're going to be here in Costa Rica for a year by the time we leave. Well, that's a long time. But my family just got back from a vacation. We needed to do a visa run so we could extend our visas here in Costa Rica. And so we went to Cartagena, Colombia, and we were only there for 5 days. But that doesn't mean that we want to remember it or that we want to forget that we went there or anything like that. And so today I just want to talk a little bit about some souvenir ideas, share a little bit what my family has done and what we plan to do in the future, and just give some ideas for you as you're traveling. Again, this works for my family, and I never want you guys to think that just because it's the way we do it means it's the right way or the best way. It's the dingler way. And I promise you that does not always equal right or best or correct. But that's how families are, right? We have our own ways of doing things. So I'm just going to go through and tell you what each of us do in my family for souvenirs. And then we're just going to kind of talk about some other options that I have seen that I really do like. And then some things that my family does plan to do in the future. We just maybe haven't done it yet. So as far as the 6 of us, we have each chosen, we started this on our test trip. We all picked one item, and that is the thing we get as our souvenir to represent that country. And I really like this because it encourages the kids to find something that is meaningful to them, because it's really easy to just walk in to one of the souvenir shops. If you've been to one, you've been to all of them everywhere in the world. They all have different flavors and scenery, but they're all the same. And so one night when we were in Istanbul, we sat down and we had a conversation and we told the kids, okay, tomorrow we are going to go out and it will be the time to get our souvenirs for Istanbul. What item would you like to start collecting? And this wasn't the first time we'd had this conversation. They knew that this was coming. We had talked about it before, how we were each going to pick one thing and why we were going to do that, because souvenir shops are so overwhelming, because you see stuff and you're like, oh, that's cute. That's a good idea. Oh, I like that. And then next thing you know, you have a magnet from one place, a pen from another, a keychain from another, a bracelet from another, a little statue from another. And it's so easy to get overwhelmed by that. And we're like, well, how do I display all this? And so we told our kids, we're like, we want you to pick one thing that is going to be relatively easy to find at every single country. And so we talked about that. We gave some ideas, some suggestions. We let the kids kind of think on their own. And then we came back together and we said, okay, tomorrow's the day. What is your thing? And so I'll just go oldest to youngest in our family. So for Eric, it's patches, and he gets a patch of the country's flag, or usually it's the flag. Usually that's what the patch is. And sometimes it'll say the city that we were in, or sometimes it'll just say the country. Sometimes it's just the flag. He likes it when it has the name of the country, because it's really easy to forget what flag it is, unless you're really good at knowing what flags are, which Eric is not. I love him. I would say that to his face, which is why he likes to have the name on it. So Eric gets a patch from every country we go to. He has yet to figure out how he wants to display them, because his thing is, well, if I put them on this bag and then I switch to another bag, what am I going to do with the patches? Will I take them off? He doesn't want to put them on a jacket or anything, he doesn't think, because not all places you need a jacket, and jackets you have to replace. So we're back to that problem. So he currently doesn't have a way he's displaying his patches. He just has them all in like a zippy bag. And that's fine. He has them, and when he figures out what he wants to do with them, he'll have them to do it. He did see someone with a backpack when we were in Cartagena, and I didn't see the guy, but Eric saw him, and he really liked the way that he had his displayed. So maybe he'll try to think up something similar to what that guy was doing. So that's what Eric does. He gets a patch. And so far we have been able to find a patch at every single place. Now, I know this is not as exciting, if you will, but if you do choose a patch, it can be a really great choice, because if for some reason you can't find the patch in one of the tourist markets, you can always order one offline. And I know it's technically not from that country, but the point of a souvenir is to remind you of the country. I don't think it necessarily has to be 100% of that country. So I would say patches are like the only thing that falls into that category. Otherwise, you do want to get something there. But the benefit of a patch is you could be like, you know what, I haven't found one here yet that I like. I did find one on Amazon that I really like for this country. I'm just going to order it off Amazon. And that's okay. Give yourself some grace in that. You still went to that country. You still got the passport stamp. Not a big deal. So that's Eric. For me, I have, if you don't know this, I have dreadlocks, and I love them. They are definitely my personality. And so what I do is I get a dangle to put in my hair at every country we go to. And what I usually do is I just buy a pair of earrings. And then you can just, if you have dreadlocks and you didn't know about this, you probably did, because again, I'm not the most like creative person in the world, but I just get a pair of earrings and I just I always get the kind with like a hook, like not a straight through type stud. I get ones that have more of a hook for the earring, because then I can just hook it in one of my locks, good to go. And now my hair is decorated, and it reminds me of the countries I went to. Plus, here's a really bonus thing. I get 2 because just in case one gets lost, because I actually did lose my Istanbul one and I only got 1 from Istanbul. So the next time, it's just another reason to go back to Turkey, right? Not a big deal. And that's another thing, like, we'll talk about that when we get to the kids. But for me, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, I had like a little moment when I realized that I had lost it, that I was like, oh man, but I got over it pretty quick. Just because you don't get a souvenir from a place, or the souvenir breaks, or you lose it, does not take away from the fact that you went to that country. As grown-ups, that's really easy for us to understand. We'll get to this with kids. So that's what Eric and I do. Then we have Martin. Martin takes some money from the place. And so that is what he is doing. And we found this like binder type thing, kind of like a playing card, not a playing card, a sports card. I don't even know what the words are. Collector's cards, like Pokemon or baseball cards, that kind of stuff. But it's for money. And he found this off of Amazon, and it has a bunch of different countries in it, and you can add the money to that country. Or I think he found another one where you can like put it in and then you write a note itself. And so he doesn't have that yet, but he'll probably be getting that probably the next time we go back to the States, which I don't know when that will be, but probably the next time we go back to the States, we'll make sure that we buy that for him. And that way, while we're in the States, because that's where most of his money is at this point, because the last time we were in the States, we dropped off a bunch of souvenirs. And so when we go back there, he can get that binder and fill it out. So that way it's not like, oh, shoot, you have 60 coins to put in or something. Now, something that is a little tricky is if places use the same money. So I'm thinking about things like the euro. There are a lot of countries that use the euro. And so for Martin, we do allow him to pick something else if he already has that coinage. So we were in El Salvador, and El Salvador uses US dollars. Okay, that's boring to just be like, oh, look, now I have a quarter. Like, he has that already. I mean, it's interesting that it uses US dollar. I'm not taking away from that. But as far as a kid getting a souvenir, a quarter or something like that isn't as exciting. Now, dollar coins are very heavily used in El Salvador, way more than they are in the States. And so he did take a dollar coin, but he also got a little souvenir thing. And we just talk about that. We just say, hey, you know what? You already have a euro, and this country takes euro, and you already have euro. And so we understand you want to get a souvenir from here. That's okay. It's about wiggle room, right? It's about understanding what a souvenir is meant to be. And sometimes he's very much like, no, I'm okay. I don't need anything. I'm good. Because he is getting older now. But then at other times, he's like, oh, no, I do want something. So like I said, when we were in El Salvador, we asked him, we're like, do you want to just take some of the U.S. Coinage, or do you want to get something else? And he's like, well, can I take $1 and then can I maybe get something else? And we're like, yeah, totally. And we always talk about this before we go to the market. Like whenever you go to get your souvenirs, for us, it's like a set thing. Like, okay, tomorrow's the day, tonight's the time. We always just talk about it beforehand with the kids that maybe need to get something or don't need to get something. We just have very open conversation about it. So that's what Martin does. Martin does coin. And that's really nice because as we are living in the country, he can be looking through the different coins that we're getting, and he can say, oh, this one is really shiny, or this one was made in the year that I was born, or whatever. And so if you're in a place for long enough and you're handling cash money enough, then you do get a little more say in the coins that you take, or if you want to take a bill or something like that, you do have a little more say in it. So that's kind of nice. Then Stoyanka does snow globes. Now, let's take a minute to talk about snow globes. Snow globes are wonderful. I am so glad that this is the thing that she picked. The reason that she picked snow globes was because when we were in Martin and Stoyanka's birth country, which if you don't know, Martin and Stoyanka are adopted from a European country, for their privacy. We just don't share what country it is. And so when we were in their birth country, we went to a market, and Stoyanka saw this snow globe there, and she really wanted it. And so, of course, I said yes. Like, she had been my daughter. I mean, in my heart, she had been my daughter for about 4 months, but legally, she had just been my daughter for like 3 days. So yes, of course, I'm going to say yes to the 75-cent snow globe. Yes. Especially since it's from your birth country. Yes, you can get the snow globe. Not even a big deal. So she gets the snow globe, and it was a really cute little snow globe. We get home, and maybe, I don't even know, maybe like 6 or 7 months. Maybe it wasn't even that long. It was anywhere from 4 to 7 months. I honestly can't remember now. It's been almost like 5 years. But a few months later, the snow globe breaks. And this was awful. This was devastating because it was a piece of her birth country. And thankfully, we had friends in that country that we were able to reach out to, and we took a picture of the snow globe, and we said, hey, could you please, we will pay, like, we will Zelle, PayPal, whatever you want, Venmo, we will pay for the shipping back. But could you please send us this snow globe? We promise you it will be in every single tourist shop you go to. And these people were amazing, really, really great people. And they were like, of course we'll do that. So they get another snow globe. Not only do they get that one, but they get that one in like the larger size. So like the actual, because she had gotten just the little like travel, like the little travel size snow globe. They sent her the big snow globe of that style. And then they sent the other kids things as well, which was super special because, again, this was Martin and Stoyanka's birth country. And so it was just very nice to have some more stuff from that country. So because of just all of that, her thing just greatly became snow globes. So that's why. And I think that's okay. It's okay to have a reason why you pick your thing. My mom, her thing is bags. She loves bags. And again, we can kind of get to that more here in a little bit, but she is always using bags. She's always putting stuff in bags to take either to church or someone's house. Or I mean, the woman is like, she is very much your typical like bag lady. And we joke about it. It's a thing. I have bought my mom bags from various countries because I know how much she loves bags. Like, and so it's okay to just be like, this is my souvenir because it's special to me. And so Stoyanka picked snow globes because of all of that with that very first snow globe, and it just fit. And then there's Riley. Riley picked a piece of jewelry. Now, she didn't say it has to be earrings, it has to be a bracelet. She just said a piece of jewelry. And I really like that because it allows her to express her style in ways that if she would have said, oh, I'm always going to get a pair of earrings, maybe wouldn't have. So when we were over in Cartagena recently, she got a choker. And right now she is on this marine biology kick. You know how 13-year-olds are. And so right now it's marine biology. And so she got one that had a little turtle on it. It was from a street vendor that made it himself. It was really nice. And it cost like 75 cents. So perfect. And so that's what Riley does. Just a piece of jewelry. She's gotten everything. She's done bracelets, she's done earrings. She has a bunch of different styles, but I like the fact that it's something that can grow with her. And that's another thing I really think is really cool about souvenirs is you can say, okay, right now I'm in this stage of life, but in 7 years, if I'm still full-time traveling, well, your piece of jewelry can change. You can go in to, I'm not talking about a high-end jewelry store, but it doesn't have to be like the street jewelry either, right? Like find a middle ground type jeweler, and then you can actually buy a ring, or you can buy yourself a nice bracelet or something like that. And I love that idea. And I think one of the biggest reasons I love that so much is because that is very special in my family, like my mom and dad's family. they were very big on having jewelry pieces that were handed down in their family. And so how special would it be if, as you're traveling the world, you're like, you know what, I'm going to buy a ring from here, and one day I'm going to give it to my granddaughter, or I'm going to give it to my son for him to give to his wife, or just whatever, right? That's a really cool thing, because then the story of you traveling will be passed down with the ring. Like, oh, my mom was in Italy and she went on this train trip one day and ended up in this small little town, and they had this jewelry store, and she ended up buying this bracelet or whatever. That is really special. And I think it's okay to think ahead with your souvenirs like this. And this kind of leads me into another story, which is when Eric and I were in the adoption process with Martin and Stoyanka, it's tradition in my family to give your daughter a sapphire ring on her 16th birthday. And so my granddad started this with his two daughters, and then my family did it with, we have 4 girls, so it's me and my 3 sisters. We all got a sapphire ring, and so my girls will now get a sapphire ring for their 16th birthday as well. While we were in Stoyanka's birth country, Eric and I bought her sapphire ring. And so we didn't go to the nicest jewelry store, but we didn't go to a street vendor either. We went to, we looked at a couple different places and we found a good deal. And we've just been holding on to it ever since she was 11, because we knew it is tradition in my family to give your daughter a sapphire on her 16th. And so knowing that, we thought about it. We're going to do the same thing with Riley. We're going to think, what country do we want her sapphire from? Riley's 13 now. And so we do have a little bit of time still to kind of figure that out, what country we want it from and all that kind of stuff. But it's really cool, I think, to think through like, oh, I am going to spend a little bit more on this ring, on this necklace, on this jewelry item. Yes, it will be my souvenir from this country, but I'm not just going to go to a street vendor. I am going to go to this actual jeweler. Oh, I couldn't get that word out there. Jeweler, spend a little bit more, because I do want it to be able to be passed down to my daughter, to a grandson, just whatever. And I love that. I think that's really cool. So that's jewelry. Ryan is the last. I had to go through it in my head. Yes, Ryan is the last, and he has chosen, I think, the most complicated of the souvenirs, probably of any type of souvenir. I think this is the most complicated, and it is a small tower. That's what he gets. He gets a small tower. Now, some places it's really easy. Like you go to London and you can get a little statuette of Big Ben or Buckingham Palace or anything. You go to France and there are more Eiffel Towers than you will ever need. They're never going to sell all those Eiffel Towers that are sitting on the ground. And you go to Italy, you can get the Colosseum, you can get the Leaning Tower. There are so many places where this is easy. So many places. And then there's Central America. And I don't say that to be mean. It's just Central America doesn't have a lot of huge towers, huge historical things in the way that Europe does. It's a very different type of history. It's a different type of architecture, and that's fine. But because of that, it has been a little more challenging to find these statuette things here in Latin America. So because of this, some of his things are a little bit different. And that's okay. Again, he is 11 now. And the biggest thing is we just want him to be able to enjoy the time, because it's not worth, in my opinion, it's not worth harming my relationship with Ryan or Eric harming his relationship with Ryan. Potentially harm. I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but it's not worth potentially harming a relationship with your kid because you're sold on, no, the 10, 11, 9, whatever they are, has to get this one type of souvenir. It's okay. That's not a hill I'm going to die on. If you want to, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. I'm just not going to die on that one. And so there definitely have been times, especially here in Central America, where Ryan hasn't gotten a little statue thing. He's gotten, I think one time he kind of got a snow globe type thing because we were in Mexico City. We could not find any type of tower. Like there were no towers in the spaces. And so when we went up to, we just did like a day trip up to the pyramid that's just right north of Mexico City. And they had a little, it's kind of like a tower, I guess, but it's also kind of like a snow globe. I don't know. He got that. And I'm okay with that. He was like, it's kind of like a tower. I'm like, even if it's not, it's fine. You still came here and you still saw it. And as long as you like that thing, I'm happy. And then Ryan also he's going to be more likely to be tempted by like the little toys. Again, he's 11. And so he's still very much in that age of if he sees a little toy at a place, he definitely kind of wants to get it. Depending on the price, we do let him because our kids don't have that many toys. The older three, they're kind of out of the toy phase now. They've moved on to, they have the Switch, they have their phones, they have their iPads. They're happy with that. Riley likes to have art stuff. Like that's the physical stuff that she wants. And so that's fine. But she doesn't really do toys. But Ryan is still a little bit liking to have toys. So occasionally if we're at a souvenir place and he sees a little toy, depending on the price, if we can negotiate it down a little bit and where it's not super expensive, we will let him get it. So those are how our family handles souvenirs. And I can't believe I talked so long about that, but I do think that there are like a lot of side streets to go down, right? Oh, another thing I forgot to say about snow globes is be careful with your size of snow globe because we almost had one confiscated on an airplane because we were only doing carry-on because that's what we do. And they didn't like the size of the snow globe, about the amount of water that it had in it, and they almost confiscated it. So thankfully they didn't, or else Stoy would have been down a souvenir and we would have had to figure something out. Again, I think she would have been okay if we found something off of Amazon and then she had it for the future. I really do think she would have been, but thankfully they didn't. So we always stick to the small snow globes because we know that we're going to be doing carry-on. If you pack a check bag, not a big deal. You can get the big one. You don't have to worry about that water allowance. But just a heads up, if you're only doing carry-on or if you're doing like a trip, like a vacation type thing, like we just did to Cartagena and you're not taking a lot of stuff, so you know you're going to be doing carry-on, but you still want those souvenirs from that place, just be careful with the size of snow globe you get. So that's what I have to say about snow globes. Okay, a couple ideas that I have seen that I do really like. I just wanted to kind of throw out there really quick. They're not going to be new to you guys probably, but I want to give them honorable mentions because I really do like them. One of them is magnets. And we had friends, it was a family magnet. Now, this could be a little tricky. They had 6 kids. They were an 8 family. Talk about amazing. And they would get one. They did the same thing as us. All the kids picked their thing. But as a family, they got a magnet for the fridge. I do really like that because they can be all on display and they can be right there forefront of the kids' minds. I think this is really nice, especially if you have like a home base that you're coming back to all the time, then I really, really like it. Or if you know sometime in the future you're going to have a home base again, then you could just be saving them up or like sending them with someone so you don't have to travel around with them. And then when you get that home base, you'll have them all there again. So refrigerator magnets are a really fun idea. Another thing I really like is art for the house. We haven't done this because we haven't felt comfortable buying it and then not knowing how long it's going to be until we go back to the States. So we're very much in this realm now of we don't know. We have no idea when the next time we're going to be back in the United States is. And so because of that, we don't want to accrue a bunch of stuff and just be like, oh, well, we'll take it back to the States. We'll take it back to the States, because we don't know how many countries we're going to be in between now and that trip back to the States. So we are being a little more cautious about art, but I do really like the idea of buying art from different countries, and that's the art you display in your house. I think that's so fun, because then as you're walking around, you're just going to be flooded with all of these memories of your trips, and that's really cool, especially if you got it from the artist themselves. And so, for example, when we were in Cartagena, there was this pop-up market, and we didn't buy anything from the man, but it was him and his wife. So we talked to them, we saw their art. And so that's the kind of art we like, not just random or like stock things, but hey, this artist made this thing. We know for sure it's from them. And yeah, I just really like that idea. Then another idea that I really like is getting home items. So not art, but like home items that you can use in the future. And so, for example, pillowcases, especially if you're in a country that does a lot of textile work. So when we were in Peru, when we were in even Colombia, it was really easy to find pillowcases. And here in Costa Rica, it's also really easy to find pillowcases and like place setting, like placemats. Those are really big. Even blankets. If you are staying at a place, especially if you're going to be there for a while and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm cold. I like to have a cuddly blanket. Go to the souvenir stalls and buy a blanket there. Worst case scenario, it falls apart by the time you leave. Let's say you're going to be in Chile for 4 months and it's a little cold and you want a little blanket to cuddle up with on the couch. That's fine. Personally, I love to have a blanket. I went and got one here in San Jose. Go to the local street market, because worst case situation, it falls apart and you leave it there and you don't take it with you to the next place. Best case scenario, now you have a blanket for at least the next couple years, maybe, if it's holding up really well. And you can be like, oh, I got this in Chile. That's fun. And so think through, like, if there's things that you need for your home. And I know that usually we don't buy a lot of stuff for our home, but if you do, a souvenir place can be a really good first place to go for those things. So home items like blankets, even towels, sometimes that can be a little trickier. Tablecloths, place settings, napkins, if you, for whatever reason, need cloth napkins. If you need cloth napkins, please message me and tell me why you needed them, because I want to know. All these things. Another thing is a purse or a bag, like a day bag. There's nothing wrong with going down to the local souvenir place and going, I need a fanny pack or I need this. You're going to spend the money anyways. So go and look, not a big deal. So those types of things, always I would recommend allowing those to be included as a type of souvenir. I do really like that. And then another thing, and I kind of mentioned this before, is bags. We need bags a lot here in my house, like a lot, because we are always, you don't get, like if you go to Walmart here, you don't get plastic bags. In the States, you do still. They just bag it all up for you, and that's great. They don't do that here. And so we need bags. So as I'm out and about, especially if I'm at a souvenir place, I look at their bags always, because I know I will use it. And so it kind of becomes this balance of, okay, do I want to buy this maybe $12 smaller bag that I really like, that it's going to hold up okay? Do I want to buy this one, or do I want to just stick with the big green Walmart ones? And you have to make that call. One time I was out with, when Eric's parents were here last December, we were out at a tourist place and there was this bag and I really liked it. I liked the way it cinched up. I liked how small it got. I was like, this will be easy to travel with in the future. I like the size of it. It's a really nice size. It's not too small where I can fit nothing in it, but it's not too big where you're going to overload it and then you're regretting your life choices. And so I got it. And now I'm like, man, I wish I would have got like 4 of these things, because it's my favorite bag. And so I think bags, it can be a really good item as well. So that is going to be my last suggestion for you guys. I would love to hear what you guys do for souvenirs, how your family handles this big thing about travel. Now that you've heard how our family does it, some of my ideas. It's okay if you don't like my ideas, that's fine. Just be nice, please, because it's not nice to be mean. So yeah, I would love to hear what you guys do for souvenirs. So shoot me an email. That'd be great. Link is in the description. And then a little housekeeping note. I was looking at some of the statistics for this show, and it turns out 47% of the listeners are not subscribed. They are not following the podcast. So if you have listened this far, thank you so much. You're awesome. You're a rock star. Appreciate you big time. But if you have listened this far and you have not pushed the follow or subscribe or whatever it is on the app you're using, please do that. It would be amazing. It really does help show all of the podcast places that people like this show, and it really does help send the messages out to other people that also might like this show. So thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it, and it really does help in a lot of ways. So with that being said, I hope that you are all doing well. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope it maybe gave you some ideas, gave you permission to think about the types of souvenirs you have. And I really would love to hear your thoughts about souvenir buying. So I hope you have a good day and you continue to travel joyfully.